Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, one of the biggest festivals in the world, where on just a single day billions of dollars are made worldwide because of chocolates, flowers, and cards. But whether we should celebrate this day or not is a huge debate. Some say stop Valentine's Day. But the real question is, where did Valentine's Day even come from? And most importantly, whose pockets are those billions of dollars filling? About 2,000 years ago, there was only one superpower in the whole world, the great Roman Empire. As soon as the empire reached the peak of its power, Allah sent a mighty prophet inside that very empire, Jesus, peace be upon him. Jesus was very different from all the other prophets because, first of all, he was born through a great miracle. And as he grew up, Allah gave him a unique power. He could heal any sick person just by touching them with his hand. Using this power, Jesus, peace be upon him, started helping the poor people of Palestine, and at a very young age, he became the most famous man in Palestine. After he became famous, wherever he went, thousands of people would gather just to see him. But Jesus, peace be upon him, didn't care about his fame at all. Whenever people came to see him, he would say things right in front of them that no one had ever dared to say before. Basically, Jesus started exposing the Jewish scholars of that time. People were really inspired by what he said, but because of these same things, the Jewish scholars of that era became his biggest enemies. After that, all these Jewish scholars sat down and started thinking about how to get rid of Jesus, peace be upon him. But Jesus wasn't scared of any of this. In fact, even in such tough times, he made a bold decision. Instead of going to small towns in Palestine, he would head straight to the capital, Jerusalem, and challenge the Jewish scholars there. Jesus went straight to Jerusalem. Of course, thousands of people gathered to see him, and with huge crowds following, Jesus entered Jerusalem and went straight to the Beit al-Maqdis, the Holy House. When Jesus, peace be upon him, entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque, he was shocked to see that the Jewish scholars there had turned it from a place of worship into almost like a bank. They had set up people who collected interest from the poor and handled currency exchange. Seeing all this made Jesus really angry, and he immediately ordered all the tables to be overturned and drove all the bankers out of the mosque. When the Jewish scholars saw this with their own eyes, they realized that they couldn't keep it like this anymore. They couldn't stand it, so the Jewish superpower teamed up with the Roman Empire to plot the killing of Jesus, peace be upon him. But at the very last moment, Allah saved Jesus, peace be upon him. After that, the Jews thought this was the end of Jesus's story and that the world would forget about him. Jesus's 11 followers started spreading his religion all over the world. Christianity began spreading so fast that slowly the Roman Empire's rulers started getting afraid of this new religion, and they thought that if this kept going, very soon, Christianity was going to wipe out the old religion, so the only way for the Roman Empire's rulers to stop all this was to kill all the Christians. After that, the Roman Empire used all its power to start persecuting Christians, and as time went on, the persecution only got worse. Finally, after 200 years, a new emperor named Claudius took the throne. He was very different from all the other emperors because Claudius wasn't just there because of his father but was an ordinary soldier himself. Claudius had climbed all the way to the throne of the Roman Empire, and before becoming emperor, he was Rome's biggest wrestler. Now, as soon as Claudius became the greatest emperor in the world, he started using his army to crush every rebellion against him. But even with such a huge army, Emperor Claudius noticed that his soldiers weren't fighting with the passion he expected. When Claudius asked why, he was told that most of the soldiers in the great Roman army were really young, and as soon as these young guys got married, their fighting spirit just disappeared. After hearing this, Claudius said, "Well, that's a good thing." After that, Christian stories say that Claudius gave a very strange order. From then on, no young soldier in the entire Roman Empire was allowed to get married. Banning marriages did speed up the Roman army, but the people started hating their emperor because, after the ban, cases of immorality and rape skyrocketed in the Roman Empire. And just when immorality reached its peak, that's exactly when an ordinary Christian priest named Saint Valentine stepped in. They decided that the king's rule could no longer be tolerated. This might not be recorded anywhere in history, but Christian stories say that Saint Valentine, without caring for his own life, started secretly marrying young couples against the Roman emperor's orders. When people found out, they began coming to Saint Valentine from far and wide. In this way, Saint Valentine single-handedly started a huge campaign against immorality in the Roman Empire. Slowly but surely, so many marriages took place that the news somehow reached the Roman Empire. The news reached Emperor Claudius, and this was a huge rebellion against the warrior king. So, Emperor Claudius ordered that whoever this Valentine was, they should find him and behead him. After that, the Roman army spread everywhere and finally caught Saint Valentine and threw him in jail. When Valentine's followers found out, they were very sad, but still, they couldn't do anything against an emperor like Claudius. They started a tradition that continues to this day, every day that Saint Valentine was in jail. Couples whose marriages he had arranged started coming to the jail on Valentine's Day to leave flowers. After spending a long time in jail, finally, the last day of Saint Valentine had come. On the night before his death, Valentine wrote his last letter to a girl, and at the very end of the letter, he wrote something that's still said around the world today, "From your Valentine." The very next day, on February 14th, Saint Valentine was brutally killed, and that's how the world got a new festival, February 14th, from back in those days. February 14th wasn't just any ordinary day in the Roman Empire. It was a day when everyone in the empire would gather together to celebrate a huge festival dedicated to one of their gods. But this wasn't your typical festival. People would throw all limits of decency out the window and engage in wild, shameless behavior that's hard to even describe. So, February 14th was a big confusing day in the Roman Empire. On one hand, Christians celebrated Valentine's Day, encouraging people to leave behind their wild ways and focus on marriage, and on the other hand, the Romans used to celebrate a pretty wild festival on the same day, so having two festivals on one day was super confusing. Over time, the old Roman religion faded away, and Christianity became the only religion across the entire empire. After that, Christian scholars got together and did away with the old, scandalous festival. People all over the empire started celebrating Valentine's Day on February 14th as a day for weddings. For the next 1,000 years, Valentine's was just a small festival, known only by some folks in Europe. But 1,000 years later, in London, one guy made Valentine's Day famous all over the world, and that guy was William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is one of the greatest authors of all time, considered the biggest writer and artist today. When Shakespeare started including Valentine's Day in his stories, the whole world began to learn about this day. After that, big historical figures like Napoleon, Queen Victoria, and Winston Churchill started celebrating Valentine's Day. But still, Valentine's Day didn't get its real fame from Shakespeare's novels. The biggest war in the world, World War, broke out, and millions of people left their families to go fight, which was a really tough thing to do because countless fathers got separated from their kids, husbands from their wives, and sons from their mothers. Amidst all these emotions, a small businessman in America, who owned a tiny printing shop called Hallmark, was paying close attention. From that little shop, he started reviving the concept of Valentine's Day by printing millions of Valentine's cards and sending them all across America. Getting it home means that during the World War, Valentine's cards were already being printed, and people didn't just send them to their families but also to their enemies. On the surface, they were Valentine's cards, but inside they were full of insults. As soon as the war ended, Hallmark went from a small shop to one of the biggest companies in the world. But after the World War, Hallmark noticed that people were slowly starting to forget to celebrate Valentine's Day, which caused their business to drop rapidly. So, from there, they completely changed their entire strategy. Dia came up with a really risky new plan that's still used worldwide today. Hallmark started targeting women directly through newspapers, radio, and TV. They made women feel like if they didn't get a little gift on Valentine's Day, it meant something was wrong. Like, "You forgot to get me a Hallmark Valentine's card." And it worked. Suddenly, people were celebrating Valentine's Day even more than before, and Hallmark started making money again. Seeing this, other companies jumped in to make money too. Hallmark set the trend, like Kate Spade, who first made heart-shaped chocolates and ran campaigns that made giving chocolates along with cards on Valentine's Day a must. After that, gold, diamond, and flower companies also started using Valentine's Day for their promotions. Even today, most social media companies use the same strategy, which has turned Valentine's into a huge festival. But these big companies put so much pressure on people on Valentine's Day that some just can't handle it. Valentine's Day is actually one of the biggest reasons for depression worldwide. Many people even end up taking their own lives because of the sadness this day brings. Today, the whole world celebrates Valentine's Day, but some cultures see it negatively. For example, some Muslims and Hindus say, "Stop Valentine's," and even some Christians like Pastor Robert say Jesus hates Valentine's Day. Religious people believe that big companies have twisted Saint Valentine's original mission just to make money, turning it into the same kind of shamelessness seen in the old Roman Empire. People have turned festivals into just another event, completely forgetting that the real purpose was to steer people away from immorality and towards marriage. In short, if someone's celebrating Valentine's Day today, they should know it's not because of true love, but because big companies are just manipulating them. Subscribe.